The fact that Conor Benn can come out away from that fight saying they hurt me and the one shot away from finishing the fight, that's all lies. I want it to be conclusive this time.
Boxing fans are buzzing as a lineup of former champions and insiders have thrown in their predictions for the highly anticipated rematch between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn.
I think with the fight, the best man's going to win. One's going to go in there, one's going to win, one's going to lose. That's the reality of sport, unless it's a draw, of course. But, you know, I think if Conor wins this fight, a trilogy is huge. But Conor also will have his own aspirations of going back to 147, looking to win a world title there. So, you know, I think in his head, that will be where his focus is. But anything's possible in the sport. Ultimately, it's going to come down to what the biggest fights are, what are the biggest opportunities. So we shall see. It's going to be a great night. You know, they delivered one of the best fights we've seen in a long time back in April, and this will be...
With the showdown set for November 15 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, excitement is at fever pitch. Everyone seems to have an opinion, and the experts are split right down the middle. The first fight delivered 12 thrilling rounds back in April, with Eubank taking the victory on points, but this time, the stakes are even higher, and the outcome feels far less certain.
What does it do to Conor Benn's career trajectory if he does lose again?
Look, I mean, you never want back-to-back defeats. Obviously, we know the future is at 147. We've got Lewis Crocker here, you know, there's a shot at the world title. But losing is a disaster for Conor. Yeah, I can dress it up to you and say, it's up at middleweight, it doesn't really matter, now we go, but that's not what Conor Benn's about. You see a different Conor Benn in there today, because all he's focused on is the performance and the fight, and getting the victory on November 15th.
Ed, what do you know about when you do get a fight, one more please, when you get an epic war like that, the rematch often is a little bit more dialed down historically. Do you think it will be more of a chess match?
I think maybe for the first couple of rounds, but you know, Conor Benn's Conor Benn. But I want him just to be a little bit smarter. We can't, like Nigel said, he's just winging away. And the heart's great, the balls are great, but you can outbox this guy as well. You're going to have to stand and fight, because he's going to try and walk you down and be the bigger man. But just be a little bit smart with it as well.
Paolo Malignaggi believes the fight could go either way, but leans slightly toward Eubank once again. For him, size and ring IQ remain deciding factors. The first encounter was close enough to prove that Benn has the tools to compete, but Malignaggi feels Eubank's craft and experience might edge it once more. However, he also pointed out a crucial concern: the weight. In his view, Eubank's battle with the scales was one of the biggest hurdles in the first fight, and if the rematch happens under the same conditions, it could once again shape how things play out.
I think Conor has a chance. The way you would be stupid to think that Conor doesn't have a chance based on the way the first fight went, because the first fight was very competitive, so you could see that either guy could win the fight. So based on that, you would be ignorant to not give Conor Benn a chance in the rematch. I do still favor Eubank. I think he's a bit more crafty. I don't know the exact weight of the rematch, if it's going to be 160 again, because that can come into play as well. Yeah, so that comes into play as well, because Eubank is a big struggle. But I slightly still favor Eubank again, but I think it's going to be close again. I really think it's going to be competitive again. I think these guys may be made for each other, just like the fathers were made for one another, you know? And I think it's going to be another good competitive fight. But I slightly lean towards Eubank. But again, I'd be ignorant to think that, to just say that, oh no, Conor definitely can't win the fight. You know, I just like the first fight sold me, now the second fight has me questioning, you know, who I strongly believe can win the fight. I don't have a strong opinion on who I believe wins the fight.
Roy Jones Jr., who has worked with Eubank in the past, offered a more layered view. He acknowledged that Eubank's physical advantages are real, but stressed that Benn has likely grown wiser and more strategic since their last meeting. Jones sees a more tactical rematch on the horizon, one where both men bring adjustments from the first encounter. He said Eubank should win because he's the bigger fighter, but it'll be tough. Conor will make adjustments, smart ones, and make it a much better fight. It'll be good, but Chris should win again because of the size. But it'll just be as competitive as the first one. Both will make adjustments and come back better. The difference is, you might get a knockout this time because both will be at each other even harder. Both felt they did well the first time, so they'll come back stronger and hungrier. The bigger guy should win, but anything can happen. Inside Eubank's camp, longtime confidant Ronnie Davies revealed that not everything was perfect behind the scenes before the first fight. Though he didn't go into details, he suggested that a few distractions and missteps during preparation might have cost Eubank some sharpness. This time, things appear different. Davies described a much more organized and focused camp, with every aspect of Eubank's preparation being handled with precision, from nutrition to recovery. He's convinced that fans will see a much more polished version of the Brighton fighter, and Davies respects Benn's tenacity but believes that experience and calmness under pressure will once again tilt things Eubank's way.
This time, I know there's a few issues last time, which I can't talk about, is he? But this time, Ziggy, when we talking to Ziggy before, sorry mate. This time he'll do it right, and you'll see a different Eubank, and I think he'll finally make an easier job. But then again, you don't know with Ben. He's very determined young kid, very fit, very powerful, and he's young. And he'll fight his heart out. So,
On the tactical side of things, Peter Fury broke down the matchup as a battle of minds as much as muscles. He sees the fight as a chess match between two men who approach boxing in very different ways. Ben's forward pressure and intensity make him dangerous, but Fury warned that this same aggression can backfire. If Ben rushes into emotionally, he risks walking into traps that a veteran like Eubank can exploit. However, Fury also believes that if Ben stays disciplined, uses his movement smartly and controls the range, he could make the fight extremely uncomfortable for Eubank.
No, I don't know. I think Ben can do more, and he's going to learn from it. The first one. So, and Eubank looked drained at that weight. I'm surprised he's gone in again for the same weight, same rules, because you could see he looked like he was struggling to get to that weight, and it showed in there at times. So I think it's a 50-50. You know, Ben's in with a better chance this time than the first time.
Ben said he's going to box more in the second fight. Is that the game plan you would deploy, or?
Yeah, you've got to box. Look, it's called boxing for a reason. You know, you've got to box. When you're looking for big shots and take somebody's head off, somebody will pick you apart. You know, this is skill set in there. At this level.
From Dave Ellen's point of view, the rematch could actually favor the younger fighter. He believes Ben took massive confidence from the first fight, even in defeat. Going 12 rounds with a naturally bigger opponent taught him what to expect in terms of pace, power, and pressure. Ellen thinks that kind of experience changes a fighter for the better. He also raised a valid concern about Eubank's ability to make weight comfortably at 36 years old. With strict rehydration rules still in play, Ellen feels that cutting weight could once again drain Eubank's energy, especially late in the fight. If Ben can maintain his pace and intensity, Ellen sees him taking over in the later rounds when fatigue sets in.
If I had to put my neck on the line, which is what this video is about, at this stage, I'm going to go for a Conor Benn win. And my old man will definitely disagree. My old man will say Eubank is still going to be too big. It's still going to be too good. I just think a combination of Eubank having to make the weight again, because I think he struggles no matter what anyone says. He definitely struggles to make middleweight. The rehydration clause, maybe it's not big as an issue as people say it is. It still is an issue. And that coincided with he's not getting any younger, and that was a really hard fight, along with the fact that will probably do Conor Benn some good. Bit more experience, he's been there now, he knows he can bother Eubank, he knows he can hurt him. I want to go for a Conor Benn win.
Robbie Lyle offered a similar take, suggesting that Ben might have benefited more from losing than Eubank did from winning. For him, the defeat likely forced Ben to rebuild with a sharper mindset and renewed focus. He believes that the pain of coming up short in their first encounter could fuel a stronger, more disciplined version of Ben this time around. Lyle feels that the lessons Ben learned in defeat about patience, ring control, and emotional balance could be the key to turning things around. He sees Ben's hunger to redeem himself as the driving force that might finally bring closure to one of British boxing's fiercest rivalries.
What do you make of Conor Benn?
I like him, man.
Yeah?
I like him. I really enjoyed that last fight with Ben.
Incredible.
And I
against Eubank.
Against Eubank, sorry. And I thought he'd done really, really well. Because I actually didn't think he'd... I thought Eubank was going to win it quite easily. Just because the more experienced guy, the length of time that Ben hadn't fought, and stuff like that. I was quite surprised at how well he did.
Yeah.
And ultimately, in the end, the sort of bigger guy won it. The rematch is going to be interesting, I think. He's now realised that I can hurt that fighter. I felt the other fighter's power. Next time, I know what's coming. I think he might even do better in the next one. I think he's got a shout to win it.
And Eubank's older.
I get these fights, but you do want to see Ben, can you kick on to try and win a world title?
It's going to sell out Tottenham again.
Yeah.
Obviously, you won't go because of where it is.
Amir Khan's take was more cautious but no less insightful. He expects the rematch to be much closer, but still edges slightly toward Eubank. Khan believes Benn didn't fully open up in their first clash, possibly due to the pressure of the occasion and adjusting to a new weight class. This time though, he expects Benn to come in more assertive and confident. However, Khan also pointed out an important psychological factor. Eubank already has the mental advantage of having beaten Benn once. That victory, combined with a surge of fan support and momentum, could give Eubank the confidence boost he needs to perform even better this time around.
I think Conor will do a little bit more because he knows he had a little bit more left in the tank from the last fight, that he could have done more, but he was just holding back a little bit. So I think it'll be a closer fight than the first one, but I think Eubank will still take that fight. Maybe just take the win, because Eubank will have the confidence that he's beaten once before. He's bigger than him physically. And finally, yeah, I think experience. Yeah, I mean, and because he's the favourite going into fight, people are always going to be. I think one thing about Eubank is that I think he's won a lot of fans over lately. A lot of people give him a hard time. He's a nice guy, man. He's not a bad guy. And I think he's won a lot of fans over, so yeah, respect to him there.
Johnny Nelson isn't entirely convinced that Eubank has evolved much since their last fight. He respects what Eubank achieved in April, but feels that if he had the power to stop Benn, he would have done it then. What stood out to Nelson was Benn's sheer toughness and determination to go the full 12 rounds despite the size disadvantage. In his eyes, that experience has made Benn a tougher and smarter fighter, one who now understands how to survive and adapt against bigger opponents. Nelson believes that if Benn carries that resilience into the rematch with a few tactical tweaks, he could push Eubank much deeper than before and possibly even take control.
Chris will give himself every possible chance that's going, but in reality, you know, personally, I just think the last performance of Chris, I thought, you've got nothing left. You've got no, there's no more improvement on what I'm seeing there. And I know there was a weight issue and all the build up to it. I thought there's no more improvement there.
Does that mean you think do you think Conor Benn will be better in the second fight?
Yes.
Does that mean that you think that by him being better and there's no more left from Chris Eubank, that Conor Benn's able to bridge the gap and get an outcome in his second fight?
Without a doubt.
You do?
He couldn't have done any more. If he could have knocked out Conor in that fight, he would have done.
Yeah.
He just couldn't get rid of him. And Conor stuck it. So regardless of him being surprised that Conor stuck it out a lot more.
Eddie Hearn, who's been the architect of this blockbuster rivalry, couldn't hide his excitement. He described the first meeting as pure theater, full of emotion, intensity, and edge-of-your-seat action. His goal now is to recapture that same magic while making sure both fighters stay healthy and safe. Hearn is especially mindful of Benn's long-term career, noting that the 28-year-old still has many big nights ahead of him if he continues to grow the right way. He sees this rematch not just as a fight, but as a defining moment for both men. One that could shape the next phase of their careers.
You know, there were times when, I don't know, not that I think Eubank would retire, but the first fight was incredibly physically taxing on both men. You know, both men ended up eventually that night in hospital, and Eubank was there for several days. And there was definitely a feeling of, are they going to want to run it back? I mean, the money's obviously huge, but do you want to go to those places again? And, you know, I have to give, you know, despite our differences, I have to give Junior respect, because he went to some deep places that night. Both of them did. And they're choosing to run it back and go to the same places where they will definitely be going in this fight. So, you know, the first fight date, which was September 20th, didn't get off the ground because, you know, Eubank physically said he wasn't ready for that fight. So we're here now, November 15th, back at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I'm back for another thriller.
Former world champion George Groves, who knows Eubank's career up close, added another layer to the conversation. He called the first fight cinematic, filled with drama and family pride, but believes the sequel might hinge on Benn's development since then. Groves pointed out that Eubank is reaching a pivotal stage in his career. With the big money fights like potential clashes against Canelo Alvarez or world title shots becoming harder to secure, this rematch carries heavy personal and professional stakes for him. Groves feels that for Eubank, a loss here could mean far more than just a dent in his record. It could close the chapter on major career opportunities.
One different caveat, if you like, to this is Bomac is back.
Yes.
Which is interesting.
That is interesting. Now, he gave credit to Jonathan Banks for last time, but Bomac is different. He is different.
Different gravy.
I mean, the best we ever seen Chris Eubank Jr., in my opinion, was the Liam Smith rematch.
Yeah.
Bomac training him. Did you hear what Bomac said? This would send shivers down my spine when he goes, oh yeah, I had a look at that fight. Oh, there's a lot I can work with. You're like, if you're Conor Benn, you're thinking, sitting there going, oh,
Yeah. I would love Chris to put the ego away and get to America and let Bomac train you over there.
Oh, that'd be the...
You want to be in that gym. You want to be surrounding those little killers and sparring those guys, right? You want to be sparring those smaller guys who are like as fast as Conor and nippy as Conor. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and they will. And he'd probably, listen...
He'll get lit up by some of them. He'll get lit up by some of them.
But believe me, it's going to pay you dividends.
Liam Smith, who shared the ring with Eubank and knows him as well as anyone, leaned toward Benn this time. Smith feels Eubank might have already shown his peak performance in their first encounter, while Benn still has room to grow. Having experienced 12 rounds with Eubank, Benn now understands his rhythm, timing, and tendencies. Smith believes that kind of inside knowledge can make all the difference in a rematch.
Big rematch, Benn and your old foe, Eubank Jr. How did you see that one playing out?
You know what, watching the first fight was a great fight, better fight than I expected.
Yeah.
But I kind of thought, I think Eubank's one fight away from being done. Thought his balance was shot to bits. I've seen him sparring and knee pads on and stuff. But I just thought, wow, you're one fight away from being done. I think the rematch was a good fight, probably a better fight than I first predicted, if that makes sense. And I think Conor's got even more of a chance in the rematch.
Carl Frog, who has trained alongside Eubank and interacted with Benn, struck a more balanced tone. He agrees that Eubank's natural size and strength keep him as the slight favorite, but he also praises Benn for daring to step up 2 divisions and still go the distance. Frog believes Benn's courage and determination shouldn't be underestimated. If he sharpens his timing and throws more precise combinations, Frog feels Benn can reduce the size gap and make things far more competitive.
Conor Benn might be able to turn it around and change it. He might be able to box a bit calmly behind the jab, take his time a little bit more, and then maybe pick his shots a bit better and not rush things and walk into things, because he did hurt Eubank in round 3 in the first fight. Can he capitalise on that by being a bit cuter behind the jab and trying looking for a smart shot rather than trying to look for a wild shot by just forcing the pace and pressure against Eubank Jr. doesn't work. I know from sparring him, you put him under the cosh and he fires back. He fights fire with fire. He always has done, and he was able to finish stronger, which was, plaudits to him. I was shocked by the fact that he could finish strong because he took this weight off and there was a rehydration clause. I believe he's doing the same weight, 160 pounds. That's what's agreed. And I also believe there's a rehydration clause as well, so he won't be able to go over, is it 9 or 10 pounds the next day, which is going to be difficult. But he signed a contract. He's getting paid well. It is what it is. We'll have to wait and see what happens November 15th. Like I said, not much to report. They've kind of been there, seen it, done it. We know who's won. I'd say Eubank Jr. is still the favourite going into this one, as he was in the first one, but he's a bit older, a bit more worn out from that first fight, and he's still got to make weight, still got to do the rehydration clause, so things could change. But yeah, me for one, I'm looking forward to see these two go at it again. I'm going to go there and sit and watch it live this time instead of watching it on TV, which is always good.
What's clear from all these perspectives is that the rematch between Eubank Jr. and Benn isn't just another boxing event, it's a story layered with pride, legacy, and redemption. Each fighter enters with something to prove. Eubank wants to reaffirm his dominance and show he's still a force in the sport, while Benn is determined to rewrite the narrative and avenge the loss that still lingers. The experts remain divided, but one thing unites them all: the belief that this fight will be even more intense and unpredictable than the first. Whether it's Eubank's experience or Benn's evolution that ultimately decides it, fans can expect a high-stakes, all-action spectacle. With both men training harder than ever, feeding off their rivalry and adjusting from the lessons of April, the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium looks set to witness another unforgettable chapter in British boxing history.